While in Israel, a new and fierce wave of protests. Thousands taking to the streets in Tel Aviv and across the country for a second day in a row, calling for Prime Minister Netanyahu to resign.
Go, sign this deal, get the hostages back. There are measures that should have been taken, and they didn't take them.
Protesters gathering tonight, warning they're not going home until the hostages are back.
Tens of thousands of Israelis took to the streets and absolutely demanded the ouster of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and an end to the ongoing war on Gaza. On Sunday, the protesters moved from Hostage Square Plaza in Tel Aviv to the parliament in Jerusalem. Protesters were heard chanting for Netanyahu's removal. Netanyahu addressed his critics in a primetime speech saying, quote, "The pain of the families," meaning the family members of the hostages, "breaks my heart. I think it breaks all of our hearts. Anyone who says that I'm not doing everything to bring back our hostages is wrong and is misleading others." The calls for elections right now, this is what he's really concerned about. At the height of the war, a moment before victory will paralyze Israel for at least half a year. And the first person to celebrate this will be Hamas. But some Israelis are not convinced by Netanyahu's statements, including Zahiro Shahar Moore, who is the uncle of a hostage who is currently held captive in Gaza. He says the Israeli government is actually misleading the public about how they are victorious in this war. Let's take a look.
There's a lot of pressure coming from the cabinet ministers stating these thoughts. Okay, be quiet, play along, come with us to these delegations and meet with the UN and put pressure on outside players, but don't say anything to contradict the official governmental line. And the Israeli public is being pumped with together we will win, and we're not winning at all. So this charade should stop. We need some international intervention, because the way things are going in Israel now, we're jumping straight head down to the abyss.
I have to say, I mean, look, it's obviously crazy how little Netanyahu cares about human lives in Gaza, but he also doesn't really care about the destruction of Israel, right? Under his leadership, as long as he gets to remain in power. It's unbelievable. And my heart goes out to the family members of the hostages. I can't imagine what it's been like to withstand the reports of this war, the complete destruction, the lack of humanitarian aid, all of that civilians in Gaza are suffering from, the hostages have been suffering from as well. All those airstrikes, the aerial bombardments, the lack of humanitarian aid, the lack of water, lack of fuel, lack of hospitals that are functioning. Hostages are dealing with that too. I can't imagine being the gentleman that we just heard from right now.
Yeah, so part of the reason that Netanyahu does not make much of an effort to get the hostages out is because if he got all the hostages out, he has no reason, or not a good enough reason, to continue the war against the people of Gaza. Because yeah, of course, some percentage of Israelis and some percentage of Americans believe that this is a war against Hamas. And that's because they want to believe that, right? But the rest of the world, like 98% of the world, knows that this is a war against the Palestinian people. That starving the Palestinians to death has nothing to do with Hamas. It also starves the hostages, by the way. And already dozens of people have died from starvation, and 1.1 million people are on the brink. And they are telling both the British and the American governments, you are not to bring any aid in without us clearing it, and it'll take as long as we want. And yes, those places are jammed up. Shut up, send us the money, and no, we don't trust you. We think you might be working with terrorists, so we're gonna slow your humanitarian aid into Gaza. Oh, but golly gee, this is a war against Hamas. Oh, we just leveled all of Gaza and drove everyone to the south, and now several cabinet ministers say we should push them into the Sinai desert and outside of Gaza entirely and ethnically cleanse them so that their entire population there is destroyed and wiped off the map. but this is a war against Hamas. It doesn't matter if you believe that. No one else does. And so right now,
Gaza's valuable real estate, Cenk.
Yeah, that's
valuable
what
real
Jared
estate.
Kushner, who was in charge of our policy on Israel and the Middle East when Trump was in office, he was literally in charge of that entire region as a clown son-in-law who's a total failure at everything he's ever done. And so now he says, what do you mean? There's really valuable waterfront property in Gaza. We could just take that and build something nice after we drive out all the Palestinians. So,
but I really want to.
But I want to focus. I want to say, look, I know some in Israel believe, oh, it's such a wonderful, great, holy war, or whatever they believe, right? But as you see here, a lot of Israelis go, hey, wait a minute, wait a minute. It doesn't look like you're making any effort to get the hostages out. They're seeing the same thing that the rest of the world is seeing.
Exactly.
And they're saying, enough. You're making no effort at all. This is obviously to protect your own political career. And we want to get those Israeli citizens back and alive. And every day you don't do that, you're endangering their lives for your own goddamn career. And we're not going to take it anymore. That's the kind of rebellion that's in Jewish culture that I love.
Yeah, exactly. And look, I have no patience for anti-Semitism, for even any anti-Israeli civilian rhetoric. I find it disgusting. I have no patience for it, especially because it's the same kind of gross black and white thinking that we speak out against here in the United States on other issues all the time. And I want to read a few more quotes from protesters, Israeli protesters from the past weekend. One of them said, quote, "Our country is being led by a gang of nutcases that jeopardize not only our existence, but our well-being. This is not the way we grew up, and these are not the values that we hold." Perfect.
That's what how many times did I tell you guys that? And then people call me apologists for Jews, and all they call me every kind of name.
What does that even mean,
apology? Yeah, what does that mean? Yes, I'm an apologist for all human beings. Okay, so guilty as charged. But look, folks saying the same things we're saying here inside Israel, saying we see you, man. We're not blind, we're not dumb, and what we value is a culture that questions authority. That's what you do in temple, that's what you do in Saturday school, and that's a beautiful part of the culture. And we're not gonna just sit here and go, oh, Netanyahu said it, so it must be true. That's like a BS line you feed dumbass American politicians so they have a fig leaf for doing what they do. It's not a thing that's real.
One more quote, let's go to graphic 5 here. Another individual, Eniav, whose 24-year-old son, Matan, is held in Gaza, blamed the prime minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, for torpedoing a deal for a temporary ceasefire that would have allowed Israeli hostages to be exchanged for Palestinian prisoners. Quote, "You stand between us and bringing our loved ones home," end quote, she said, addressing Netanyahu, of course. So I really hope that they keep that aggressive spirit alive and hold their current far-right government accountable for what's happening, because I think the actions of the Israeli government have made it abundantly clear that they don't genuinely care about the lives of the hostages that have been held captive in Gaza. The only time they were able to free some of those hostages is when they agreed to a temporary ceasefire. But Netanyahu keeps lying to them over and over again about how no, military pressure is the only way. They're not stupid, okay? They have lived through this so far. Israeli civilians have seen how this assault on Gaza has not really been fruitful for the return of Palestinians. I'm sorry, for hostages in Gaza.
Last thing here, guys. So also in that great quote that we showed you is the idea that we've also been talking about here for months now, which is this is not just about the Palestinians. Israel was meant to be a safe haven for Jews across the world who were bullied and intimidated and killed, etc., right? But you can't have a safe haven as long as you're keeping 5.5 million people prisoners. And again, if you think occupation is a lovely state that they shouldn't complain about and they should just shut up and be ruled, and it's their fault for being ruled and imprisoned, I'm not gonna be able to help you because you've lost sight of all rationality and logic, right? But if you're a decent person, which a lot of Israelis are, you know you're never gonna be safe as long as you keep those people occupied. No human beings of any ethnicity or race are gonna go, oh, okay, we will be permanent enslaved people who are living under occupation, and we'll put your boot on our necks, please. We love it, and we'll comply from now on. That's not gonna happen. You're gonna have endless conflict, endless war. So you've got, when you get to new elections, which I hope you get to, please elect someone with a mandate for peace so that Israel can be safe and the Palestinians can be safe and the Palestinians can have a state. By the way, you'll hear in Israel this nonsense from the right wing of, well, don't reward Hamas and its terrorism by giving them a state. Instead, let's have war forever, right? And that'll show the terrorists. No, it won't. It'll just create more terrorists. And so the reality is it's a trick. And I could just flip it on them super easy, and you should as well. The #1 terrorist this world has seen in a long time is Yigal Amir, who assassinated Yitzhak Rabin, the Israeli prime minister. Yitzhak Rabin was likely going to do a peace deal. So do not reward the worst terrorist of our lifetimes by not doing peace.
Right.
Amir said, I'm gonna murder the Israeli prime minister so that we never get to peace and the Palestinians never have a state. Every day that you do not get to a two-state solution is a day you reward Amir for murdering Prime Minister Rabin. So two can play at that game. Get the peace right now for the sake of both people. And it looks like Israel might be headed in that direction, and we greatly welcome it.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.